I'm Bill Auten of Auten Claims Management.
I'm Chantal Roberts of CMR Consulting, and welcome to the Art of Adjusting podcast.
Today, we're going to talk about life as an insurance adjuster from the perspective of property, auto, liability, or workers' compensation adjusters. Our goal is to bring interesting topics in the world of claims adjusting to people who are working as an adjuster now and to people who are considering a career as a claims adjuster. Hey, Chantal, how are you?
Well, I'm doing great. I have a very raspy voice because I just got back from Barcelona, where I was
Barcelona.
both Barcelona, where I
Yes.
was European disco trash and smoking, and that's why I've got the nice raspy voice and everything.
What a fun adventure that must have been.
It was a lot of fun. It was
Great.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Glad to have you back.
Mm,
And today, the topic is multi-line adjusters and
yes.
whether or not they're still a thing. And I'm not really sure how common it is anymore. I think it was more common maybe 20 or 30 years ago
Yes. Yeah, I
than
agree.
today.
I agree. And I encourage everyone to become a multi-line adjuster. And I'm glad we're talking about this because it is something that I think is very important for adjusters. It will make you pretty much, I believe, bulletproof and very hireable. Although I believe that adjusters will be very hireable in the future anyway,
Mm.
because really nobody wants to sign up for this kind of job. And but before we do this, let remind everybody to like, subscribe, share, comment. It helps the algorithm pick it up and, all of that kind of fun stuff.
I wish we had a better forum or a better way for listeners to ask questions as they listen, but
Mm,
my yeah, I listen to podcasts too,
hmm.
and questions might pop into my head, but I'm usually driving when I'm listening or doing
Right.
something else where I don't have the computer in front of me or a way to communicate to whoever put that podcast on. Um, so if you have a burning question, just find us on LinkedIn. That's
Yep.
probably the easiest way. Um,
Look us
but
up online. Yours is Otten Claims or Otten
Auten dot claims.
Claims. That's it.
No
Otten
dot
dot
com,
claims. Yeah.
just dot claims. Yep.
Otten dot claims, and I am cmrconsulting.net. So
Yep.
you can find us that way. Of course, you can always Google the art of adjusting and email me that way as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
S-
So,
So
yeah.
what I did with this topic and this outline is something a little different because we don't get a lot of questions, but we do have access to Reddit and different
Right.
social media. So I scanned Reddit for questions about this topic,
Mm.
and we'll read some of those questions and give you some feedback. So I thought that would be an interesting way to approach this.
I think that's a good idea. I think
Yeah.
it's a great idea.
So for the uninitiated, a multi-line adjuster is simply somebody who's both licensed and trained to handle various lines of insurance. So you might handle first party property where you're inspecting damage to roofs or damage from fires or things like that. But you can also investigate a liability claim where somebody slipped and fell, or maybe you can handle auto claims where there was an accident and people got hurt in that. And
Hmm.
or maybe you can investigate workers' compensation.
Hmm.
And you can you're multi-line because you can do any of those things. Now, I've often taken the stance and been told that you're kind of like a radial tire. You can do
Right.
it all, but none of it really well.
Mm.
And to some extent, I would agree with that. I know I started out in this career as a multi-line adjuster.
Hmm.
I felt very competent and proficient. Um, But when I would encounter folks that were like a property person who had been only a property guy for 15 or 20 or 30
Mm.
years,
Hmm.
you quickly learn that there are nuances that you're just not familiar with, and that might be something just, and I mean, you look at some people that just are exactimate wizards.
Right.
You'll always learn something from them.
Yeah.
And they may not know how to take a statement from somebody, but they know how, exactimate upside down, inside out.
Left and
And
right. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So that's kind of what you give up as a multi-line adjuster is you don't specialize, meaning that there is going to be some details that you're not really familiar with.
Hmm.
And again, like the first part of my career, I was sure that the multi-line was the way to go. And, a little hubris, you know, was involved too, where I thought I can do it all.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
then I specialized in liability claims.
Hmm.
And now I realize the stuff that we do here is so specialized that I would never expect a multi-line adjuster to just hop in here and know everything that we do
Right.
on a daily basis. So anyway, that being said,
I
uh,
agree with you for the most part. However, I do feel that almost every adjuster should be a multi-lined adjuster and maybe start off that way and then
yeah,
figure out what they like because I started off with being specialized with semi-tractor trailer rig accidents bodily injury
hmm
for a specific amount, very, very specialized, very narrow. And I have seen adjusters who all they do are total loss automobiles for the state of Arkansas.
hmm
That would drive me up the wall. I would be bored to tears, but that particular adjuster really liked it. Um, I like the fact of being a multi-lined adjuster. I became a multi-lined adjuster later on, like after 3 or 4 years in my insurance career. And I liked the fact that I was working cargo 1 hour. I was doing a liability claim the next hour. I was doing a property damage, roof claim or a flood claim or a water burst claim the next hour. I liked that kind of stimulation. Now, was I better at one particular type of claim than the other? I think that's what you're talking about too, is that you do, even as a multi-line adjuster, find where you're good at. But the reason I like to advise adjusters to start off being multi-lined is you get a broad breadth. And let me say one thing as a caveat that I don't mean you start off on day one accepting 15 different types of policies. You can't do that.
right,
There's no way you can. So, yeah, what I mean when I say multi-lined is spend 5 years being a property adjuster, first party property adjuster, and then maybe 2 years as the liability adjuster on a homeowner's claim or commercial general liability, and then move over to cargo or workers' comp or something like that. So that by the time that you've been in the industry for 20 or so years or 10 years even, you do have a good idea of how policies are read, how policies are interpreted, and how to adjust lots of different kinds of losses.
yeah. And your employer, if you work for a larger insurance company, depending on the culture there, they may have job postings that they allow for folks to move from one discipline to another.
Mhm.
And that's the best opportunity because if you're working in a place like that that does kind of have those open doors where people have the ability to switch around, you're probably going to learn more in an environment like that. Um, the alternative is to say, well, I don't like this desk property job. I would like to go do something else. You might have to leave the company. That's
Yeah.
no fun.
No, it's not. It's starting all over again and that sort of
Yeah,
thing. And
yeah.
and that's what I did do at Liberty Mutual is I did the commercial general liability both for slip and falls and for semi-tractor trailer rigs. And then I moved over to SIU and I became an SIU investigator. And then I ultimately left Liberty Mutual and went over to MetLife and did something else. But again, looking at the different things, And I do want to say if you happen to be a younger uh, adjuster, give it some time because I think our young generations, as opposed to like the boomers or whatever, they were just like, I'm going to be here for 50 years or whatever. And younger generations are like, I'm going to be here for a year and a half.
Right.
Um, you need to you need to invest more time than that. That's going to be my thing, especially when learning a particular type and a particular line of claim, because like you said, you could just do Exactimate or you could just do first party property losses, homeowners, and become really, really good over 20 years because over 20 years you've spent that time doing it, over and over and over again. Um, but it's not going to come in a year. It's not going to come in a year and a half. You're looking at probably 3 years to 5 years.
Yeah. And some people settle into a specific line and they stay there because they love it. And
Yeah.
I've got two brother-in-laws that are both property guys. One's in commercial, the other's in homeowners.
Hmm.
That's their lane. They've been
Yeah.
doing it now for 25 years, maybe
Hmm.
20, 25 years, and they're perfectly happy.
And
Um,
there's even when we're talking about a multi-lined adjuster, there's even ways to get even more narrow because while I consider myself to be a multi-lined adjuster, I like liability, but I like liability going through all the states. You have specialized in liability in New York. So you're still like a multi-line adjuster. You've seen all the stuff. You can do all of the stuff. You like liability, and you've decided, you know what? I'm going to stay in New York. I'm not going to look at New Jersey or Connecticut or Vermont or anything like that. Not
well,
to say
we're
that you
actually
can't.
licensed in Connecticut and,
Yeah,
and we do work in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So
right. I
don't
was just
limit
getting
our geographic territory.
I'm just not that okay. I was just getting ready to say before I got so rudely interrupted, not that you can't do those things. It's just, when you and I are talking, I might throw out Arkansas and Texas. That's because that's where I grew up learning these sorts of liability claims, right? You usually talk about New York because that's where you are. If we had someone from California, they'd be talking about California and how weird
Mhm.
it is. Anyway, um,
Well, within liability claims, you could be the dog bite person.
yeah.
The person that just handles dog bites. You know everything there is to know about dog breeds and the
Hmm.
laws that relate to dog bites and all that stuff. You could be one that focuses just on the tavern industry and liquor liability claims.
Hmm. Those are good.
We,
Yeah,
I mean, the sky's the limit. Uh,
exactly.
Personal auto versus commercial auto. Commercial auto, you could pick a subset there and just
Hmm.
do accidents involving landscape companies or accidents involving delivery trucks,
Right.
or mail truck.
Exactly.
Choose your poison.
Yeah.
There's
So,
opportunities all over the industry.
so let me ask you, do you think it's becoming more specialized? Like insurance companies are driving adjusters to be monolined or only handling one line or maybe one particular aspect of one line? Or do you think it's always been this way?
I think that the industry has a patchwork of methodologies that there's no one. I would say that just because the bigger carriers employ more people, it is the bigger carriers that tend to narrow down the focus and slot you into a very specific
Hmm.
subset of the adjusting category. So um, that might, because those bigger carriers employ more people, the impression is probably that it is going that way where it is becoming more specialized. However, there are a lot of small carriers out there that have very small claims departments.
Hmm.
Many of our clients have one or two people in their claims department. Some of them have 15. Some of them have 30 or 40 or 50. So those smaller ones, they can't afford to just have a person just only handle a specific type of claim.
Right.
In an environment like that, you have to be a generalist. And when the storms come in, you're their liability person, but all of a
Hmm.
sudden they're getting 20 property files in
Yeah.
a day,
Yeah.
you're gonna jump ship and you're gonna have to help out. And that's what we see. So um my thought is that's always going to be the way because these small firm mutuals, there are thousands of them all over the country and they're still operating and they still need claims people in their claims departments. And if you go to work for one of those and say, I only handle X, Y, Z kind of a claim,
Right.
probably not going to work out. So,
Yeah.
but if you want to be multi-line, those smaller carriers are the best place to look. Those and independent adjusting
I was
firms.
just getting ready to suggest independent adjusting, and uh, I always thought that the a good way to a good career way is the way that I did about 5 years in a carrier and then go over to the independent adjuster field. But let me ask you, this isn't, I mean, adjusters all over the country are asking these questions. And you said that you looked at Reddit to get some of these
Yeah.
questions. And you talked about a generalist. Is that the same thing as an all lines adjuster?
So I've heard the phrase general adjuster or the
Mm-hmm.
title general adjuster. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, that's what we uh, most of our team members are designated as general adjusters, but that from our standpoint just has to do with their license. They're licensed under New York. It's called the general
Mm-hmm.
adjuster's license, meaning you can do any of them.
Right.
When you get that license, you can handle property. They call it fire,
Mm-hmm.
um, auto, liability, workers' compensation. So that those are all under the general adjuster blanket.
Right.
Um, I've also I've also seen that the general adjuster on the property side, if you got somebody called a general adjuster or a GA,
Mm-hmm.
those guys are usually the large loss people. I don't know why that term came about, but at
Yeah.
one of the carriers I worked at there, they had like three general adjusters, and
Mm-hmm.
they would travel, thousands of miles to get to a big,
Yeah.
large loss.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yeah.
uh, the terminology can be weird in this industry sometimes, and that's one of the weirder, I think,
Right.
uh, terms. But
And I do think it's part of the issue too, because we can say, oh, we're adjusters or we're customer service representatives or we're, I don't know. What
we
are
we
this?
we were at one carrier I worked at. We were claims management specialists,
There you
CMS.
go. And you're just like, dude, it's a, like as Shakespeare said, a rose is a rose. Yeah,
Hmm.
it doesn't really matter. So yeah, all lines adjuster, multi-lined adjuster are going to be those kinds of adjusters. They're experienced adjusters who handle many different types of claims.
Yep.
So, like you said, property, liability, workers' comp, cargo. Maybe you do errors and omissions or D&O, directors and officers, that kind of deal. So it can be any of those sorts of things. I would say that the definition is definitely still accurate. At least I do sometimes feel I'm kind of out of the loop sometimes since I'm not actually at a insurance company or an IA anymore, but I try to remain relevant by reading.
Yeah, well, it has. There's so many things that have changed in the industry, but there are so many things that have not.
Right.
Um, Obviously, AI is huge,
Yeah.
and the way that carriers are starting to use it is interesting and a little frightening. Um,
Yeah.
I had one adjuster tell me works for a large carrier. Actually, he didn't tell me directly. I heard it secondhand, but he was told at their company that everybody should be using AI as much as possible in their work, which for us, we have some strict rules around the use of AI,
Mm-hmm.
and I think most of the industry does. Um, I know, like my wife works at a large corporation.
Hmm.
They're very pro AI. Everything they do feeds into Copilot, I think it is.
Right.
But that falls under the Microsoft, thing. So
Exactly.
as long as there's, security built in, but to
Yeah.
say blank to issue a blanket statement to your team or your employees that just use it as much as possible, um, sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It does. It does sound like a recipe for disaster. I know that my husband, his company has given the statement that if you use AI, you must only use Copilot because that's what they're
The
doing in a,
whitelisted
yeah,
service.
exactly. And the reason why, if y'all don't know, is you could be uploading protected personal information that if it got out, it's a big fine. We've kind of talked about that before with Medicare and Medicaid,
Yeah.
about the protected health information and the HIPAA information. Not to mention the fact that there have been a few court rulings, not about insurance, but I can see a plaintiff attorney arguing it for an insurance case that if an adjuster used AI, for example, to ask a question or do this or do that, then they have kind of like breached that uh, privilege, so to speak.
It's
Um,
tough. So we
so,
have to be licensed as adjusters.
right.
An attorney has to be a licensed attorney.
Mhm.
If you are depending on AI to make the call for you, AI is not licensed in either those aspects. So
Yes.
it's a really weird problem to have because it's you can do legal research
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Hmm.
How is it different if you use AI to do that research for you? I don't know.
I think the difference is that people are just rubber stamping, or top sheeting it. And
Right.
Texas, for example, Texas, I wrote about this on LinkedIn. Texas has come back and specifically said, the Texas DOI has specifically said, you cannot do that. You can use AI, no problem, if you want it to compare estimates or whatever, but
Hmm.
you as the adjuster have to approve what AI has done.
Hmm.
And my LinkedIn note was, by the way, adjusters, you writing a claim note saying reviewed the AI and I approved it, it doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
You need to do a little bit more. And this is talking about how the industry has changed. You when you and I started, there were paper files, there were film and cameras. My very first job at my dad's AI firm or IA firm, independent adjuster firm, was taking his roll of cameras that he took pictures throughout the day. When I got off from school, I would grab, those rolls and go drop them off at the hour developer, or he had already dropped it off at the hour developer, film developer. And my job was to go pick it up, so that
Yeah,
he could, start posting it into the files.
we did
And
the same thing. We had the 35 millimeter rolls, and
hmm.
um, there was there's two ways we could do it. There was a small photo shop in
Hmm.
town,
Hmm.
and super nice guy. He sold some cameras there, but his main service was film developing because that was a thing back in the well, for many, many years.
Right.
And I started in 96, so that time period, that's the way you did it. And then the other way was to go to the supermarket and you drop it off in put it in a little envelope with your name,
Right.
drop it in there, come back. Either way, we got free doubles. They always printed, that was
Yes.
like the
Oh my
big
gosh.
ups,
Yes. That was
so
the
I
ups.
wound
This.
up with two copies of every photo. So for years, I would always take the risk photo in front of the house and I would save them. And I had this big stack. I just got rid of it probably 10 years ago. I found it in a box and I'm like,
Mm.
why do I still have these? And it was interesting to flip through them and see if I could remember some of the claims. Some of them I could because they were either really bad or whatever. Um, but yeah, back in the day, it wasn't. too long after I started that the first digital cameras started to come out. And
Hmm. Hmm.
I was all in. I was like, these are great. This is the best thing ever. I worked with a couple folks that were in their probably 30s and 40s, maybe 50s,
Right.
and they didn't like
Nope.
it.
Nope.
So our office got issued one digital camera
Uh,
for three people, and I was the only one that used it. Nobody else wanted to use it. So,
yeah. Oh my. Well, see, we used, okay, as we go down, memories. This is
yeah,
so going to be an advert. Um, So we had the doubles, which was a big thing, but we would mail because email wasn't a thing yet.
right,
And when there wasn't color faxes, so pictures, photos didn't go over well when you faxed it.
right.
So what we would do is we would keep the copy in our file because again, as adjusters, you had to keep a clear file, and then our report would go off to our client with the originals. We had fewer lawsuits back then. Of course, there
Hmm.
was less electronic evidence. There may be an electronic file where you would type in your time and expense, as we would call it, notes back in the day, or claim file notes back in the day. But everything was still paper. Um, there wasn't a scanning capability to put all of the insured's emails or faxes or whatever into the system. And that's when you got really good at summarizing. But today, like it actually, we were in a taxi in Barcelona, and there was a camera facing us as passengers.
Mm.
And I thought, aha, you know why he's doing this is because he's had customers who get a little belligerent or whatever. And so this is a way for him to protect himself, that
Hmm.
you're being recorded. And so it's one of the ways that the industry has changed. As adjusters, we would need to, of course, ask for that, but you've got ring cameras, dash cameras,
Cameras
drones.
everywhere.
Yeah, you've got
I
people on cell phones taking recordings all the time, so it has changed. The As the job has gotten faster with electronic, people's expectations have gone up. We've talked about this before, where people just email you constantly and you're like, oh, okay, I have 24 to 48 hours to respond.
mm.
Please take a breath because I have 250 other claims that I've got to work or whatever. Um,
The access to information today is huge too, and
yeah,
that actually makes it easier to become a multi-line adjuster
should.
because now you can get your questions answered more quickly.
Mm,
If you've got a complex situation and you can't reach your supervisor, your mentor, or whatever, you can do a search, and Reddit is one of those places that continually feeds AI because it's such a huge resource of information.
mm,
Is it all accurate?
mm,
No.
no,
Um, so you gotta have to, use your brain around some of these responses and posts, but it'll get you closer to the answer than you might have been 20 years ago or 30 years
right.
ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're so suave when we change subjects.
We are, yeah. Property versus liability. What's your favorite?
I like
You
liability.
you had to pick now today.
Yeah, I like liability a lot better. Uh,
And
I
why? Why is that?
I think I think it is a little bit more complex. I think personalities are more involved, and I like that challenge a little bit more. It is a little bit harder in the fact that you are usually dealing with a person who has been injured and they may not be the best person who uh, they may not have the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Unbiased opinion about
Oh,
how injured they are,
yeah.
or I had to deal a lot with animal or vet malpractice, veterinarian malpractice, and that was hard. It was
Yeah.
liability because invariably we would have inadvertently killed their animal. And, having to tell someone that you are in a state that sees your beloved pet as a piece of property. And so I can give you $60 plus your med bills.
Right.
Your veterinarian bills does not go over well.
Right.
And so I like liability in the fact that it does require more skill,
Mhm.
but that's just me.
Maybe.
Some people
I've seen
meet.
some really complicated property losses
Oh,
too, though.
this is very true, very true.
It's hard for me to say that one is more nuanced or more
Mm,
complex or whatever, because both of them are rich with conflict and
hmm.
legal issues and legal
Very true.
disputes. Emotions run high in both.
Yes,
I mean, you can't say, well, people got hurt on the liability side, so they're more upset.
right.
Now, when
Because you're
people
talking
lose
about
their
someone's
house,
homes. Yes.
they get pretty upset.
And all of
Um,
their grandma's silverware and all of that kind of stuff, photographs.
and
Yeah.
when catastrophic things happen to buildings,
Mm,
people
mm.
get hurt there too.
Oh yeah.
And that becomes then part of that claim as well. Just I mean, not from a compensation standpoint on the property side, but it is just now this cloak of
Right.
darkness over the whole file that is always going to be there, and you've got to maybe deal with the family who's lost their home and lost a loved one, and it's that makes
True.
it tough. So
This leads to the adjuster stress. And Heather Blevins, who had co-hosted for a little while here, talks a lot about how adjusters are kind of like secondary people who absorb people's stress, and they're almost like a PTSD sort of deal where people are undergoing, like, their home has been destroyed, or they've lost a loved one in an automobile accident, or they've lost some kind of capability, or their pet, or whomever, whatever. And an adjuster is getting yelled at a lot, and an adjuster is taking on that uh, emotion and that stress. So, do you think that being an multi-lined adjuster in that particular instance helps reduce that stress, or does it increase that stress? What is your take on that?
that's interesting.
Because, like it's like you said, property can be just as fraught with emotion.
Yeah, I would say though that with property, there's probably more opportunities to get into a rhythm.
Mhm,
So let's say you're a multi-line adjuster and you've got to interview someone who was involved in a fatal auto accident in the morning. That's tough.
mm,
It's
mm,
exhausting.
mm.
So you still got a laundry list of things to do that day. Maybe just sit down and write some estimates from inspections that you did the day before, and just you can just check out of your emotions and just sit and do the go through the process of putting an estimate together to take your mind. So that switching is kind of a benefit
Yeah,
on
I
as
agree.
a multi-line adjuster.
Hmm.
You if you're climbing roofs all week and you need a break,
Hmm.
pick up your liability work and just go take some statements or some scene photos or something, Um, One other benefit of being a multi-line adjuster is you do have, I think, just as a consequence of doing that type of work, you wind up having more autonomy in your day. You don't have generally um, someone breathing down your neck every 5 minutes.
Hmm.
Um, the metrics are usually measured just like any other company,
Right.
but I would say that as a multi-line, the odds are that you will have more autonomy than in other lines of business.
Hmm.
It's not always true everywhere. I mean, I've
No.
worked in a multi-line environment where we got a call from a supervisor or manager every 30 minutes to make sure we were doing what we were supposed to do. That's
Oh,
fun,
yeah, that's a little micromanaging. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
So,
not.
it all depends on, the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
So,
Which is another reason why I think since we're talking about stress, if you had a bunch of, or not a bunch, if you had experience in different lines of business and one made you more stressed than the other, then I think that's why you would want to either consider going over to the one that you particularly like and is not stressful and you do really well at, as opposed to staying a multi-lined adjuster or doing the kind of work that always makes you stressed and unhappy at work, because we spend a lot of time at work and so we might as well be happy while we're there.
this job as a whole isn't for everybody. Yeah,
Mm-mm,
like some people come into this business and they say that that's just not the work for me. I don't ever want to do that kind of work. And there could be various reasons for it. It might just be that you're just in the wrong line of business.
mm-mm. It could be that.
Maybe you hate property claims because you're afraid of heights and you don't like roofs. And you decide that being an adjuster isn't for you, but you could drive a desk in another place, in
Right,
another kind of role,
right.
and you might love that. And it might still be handling property.
Hmm.
Um, so it's a very vast and colorful kind of place to work, this business. There's many, many different directions you could go. Um, so
Well,
what is
what
what
about
is the
you?
what about
You
the
asked me, what if I were starting today, which one would I go with? And I said liability. What about you? If you were starting over, where,
well, if multi-line is still an option, I would definitely pick that.
well, of course.
That's where I started. But
Yeah.
um, if I were starting today, that's a tough one. That is really tough. Um, if I was starting today with the background that I had when I started on October 5th, 1996, a property.
Yeah.
Because that's what I went to Lindsay Morden to do, was handle
Right.
property claims. Um, and a month into it, I was told we need multi-line, so we're sending you to liability school down to
Guys.
Vale.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and I was glad for it. I learned a ton there,
Hmm.
and then because when you work for a large independent firm like that, back then anyway, you got to see some of the craziest stuff.
Yeah.
Like the claims that would come in were just bananas, and you learn real fast in an environment like that. So um, that's what I would say about that property, probably. Yeah.
Cool.
So what's I had a question that pop into my head though.
Yeah.
Of all the types of claims out there, what's the worst type? What would you avoid? Like if you had this assignment and had an opportunity to pass it off to somebody else, what would it be? And
I,
it might take
yeah.
more thought than
No,
we
no, no,
have
no.
time
Let's just
for.
do like, knee-jerk reactions. I never really cared for cargo claims,
Oh, okay. Interesting.
which is interesting because when we were doing cargo claims at my previous job, there were a lot of people who were intimidated by cargo. And excuse me, I would say, why? I mean, it's really liability is what it is, but you're just dealing with property instead
Right.
of people.
Right.
I mean, that's what cargo is someone was hauling it. If that property that was being hauled belongs to someone else, that property got damaged. And so the owner is putting in a claim for their damaged property. That's liability. So you would apply the same things. I just didn't like liability. Even though you're dealing with business people, and usually a lot of adjusters will say dealing with commercial claims is almost better because there is sometimes that either professionalism or the um, not so personal aspect
People,
of it.
yeah, people aren't as emotional about losing
Yeah,
a load of cargo. I
exactly.
mean,
A
they
load of
might be.
shoes. I mean, they may
They
be.
they might
Um,
be,
because
but
I've worked plenty of commercial claims where the insured didn't have, for example, business interruption, and because their building was on fire and burnt, a majority of the building burnt, and it was going to take 6 to 8 months to repair, and they didn't have business interruption, their business was going to go under. So yeah, they got the ability to rebuild the building and start over again, but they weren't going to make it.
right,
And so it got to be very personal because when you don't have business interruption, of course, you don't have income coming in, which means you can't make your mortgage payment, which means you can't pay yourself, you can't buy groceries, you can't do, and some business people don't think that way.
right.
And as a
A
claims
small
adjuster,
business owner here, if something happened where we couldn't operate,
mhm.
that I'd get emotional. You'd
Yeah,
watch.
absolutely. And the one, I mean, I didn't really work these claims. I quote unquote worked them in SIU when I was in special investigations for fraud, but workers' comp, I don't understand workers' comp. I mean, I know it's no
It's a
fault,
different,
basically. It is a whole
yeah.
different beast. And I understand that it's basically no fault and you just start paying immediately. That part, I just can't get my little adjuster head wrapped around.
The
Um,
concept, the indemnity concepts and workers'
yeah,
compensation are almost flipped on
flipped.
their head.
Yes,
If you're used to handling liability,
exactly. You start paying
you're
first and then you continue to investigate. And then if you
right.
realize that you don't owe it, well, then you can stop, but you can't not pay until you determine. I mean, you just start paying. And sometimes payment isn't like within 3 days.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I'm just
it's
like,
a
well, I
it's
don't,
much different.
yeah, I don't get it. So that would be
My
me.
choice for claims that I would very quickly hand off to someone else if I was able to would be property damage liability and collision for personal auto.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Dealing with rentals and people
Oh,
screaming about their car and O- OEM parts and
oh, the
now today we have what's the depreciation the whole
the like
depreciation
kind
thing.
quality.
No, there's diminished value
Yeah.
claims.
Oh, okay. So let's just take a brief detour because I think this would be another good podcast. Um, Here's my hot take. I don't believe in recover or the diminished value claims.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't get it. I know it's a law. Trust me, if I get into an
When I
automobile claim,
first heard of it, I
yeah,
I thought I thought, well, that's ridiculous. But then the devil's always in the details.
the
So
devil is in the details.
if you look at it, so for those who don't know, if
Okay.
you drive a brand new car off the lot and a week after you buy it, you get in a car accident.
Hmm.
So let's say that car, you bought it new for 60,000. After a week of just driving its value becomes 50,000. And then you get in a collision
Hmm.
and it gets all fixed up. But now because it's got a collision on its record, it's no longer worth 50,000. It's worth 45,000. That's $5,000
5,000.
in difference. Some savvy attorneys and things have decided that that's compensable under an auto policy and that the auto policy should reimburse you for that damage as well
Hmm.
under the collision coverage. And
And it's more of a psychological thing. I understand because you're absolutely right. But my point is, if we repaired the vehicle correctly, there should be no diminishment of value. But it's a psychological thing
it is,
because
it
a
is.
lot of people are like, I don't want to take that car because I don't know if there's some kind of hidden damage that wasn't repaired.
Right. It's a matter of risk.
Right.
And because that risk now is attached to that car,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, it's the same risk of buying a used car versus a brand new car.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. So I totally agree. It's a hot take for me though. Okay. So, we've talked about specialization versus being a general adjuster and the burnouts of both, and which would we do today? What kind of advice would you give a brand new adjuster? Would you say start off as an independent, or would you say start off
Hmm.
in the carriers?
That's a tough question too, because there's too many unanswered questions. Like I can't make a blanket statement about it
Oh,
because
see, I do.
everybody's
You know
different.
me, I'm going to make a blanket statement.
Everybody's different though. And like if your skill set is in um I don't know, maybe you're more of a bean counter
Mm,
than an investigator.
right.
I'm going to give you different advice as to what kind of adjusting you should be doing. Maybe you love outside, you hate the desk. I got the answer,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I think before I would give anybody advice as to which line to pick or whatever, or to become multi-line, I think I would first want to know a little bit more about where they come from, what they like to do, what they hate to do.
Yeah. Oh, I can see that. I though always like tell my students, for example, or I've always given the advice, go with the carriers, the ones that are going to ride you hard like a rented mule, and kind of put you up just till they break you kind of deal. And the reason is because yes, it's going to suck, but you're going to get a lot of experience. And after 3 years, you would change from like property, for example, to liability. And then once you get like 10 years of doing that, then I would go over into the independent sphere, is what I've always told people, because you can get a lot more money being an independent. And it is, I think, a lot more fun being an independent because, like you said, you get to do different things
Yeah.
every day. However, if you don't like that, then yes, stay in the carrier side of things. I feel though it would be really hard to start off as an independent. I don't know. I didn't start off as an independent.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
I did. And if you do that, you need to be in an environment full of people that can mentor you.
Yes, I
You
think that's
don't
the
want to get a license and just start um, applying to independent firms to get on their roster. I
right.
think that would be a mistake.
Mm,
I think that you'd be better off finding um, a place that has a an office near you with the principals of that company or managers of that company that can serve as your mentors and that you go to and will supervise you. Um, because if you're just flailing out in the abyss, getting assignments and not knowing what you're not going to do well.
and I
And you're probably going to not have any fun.
Yes, I do want to point out one thing that we're talking about with quote independence versus the carriers. We also have third-party administrators, which technically was my firm, the one that I worked at, but we were also an independent. So it is possible that you could work for a third party administrator. I think Cunningham Lindsay is one, Crawford and Company is one, where they both are third party administrators for certain insurance companies, which means they handle the claims for that insurance company in addition to being an independent, which means that insurance company will hire you to only do one specific thing, like maybe take photographs or write an estimate or whatever. So I guess if you were going into the independent sphere, you could still kind of simulate the insurance carrier, mm,
Environment.
yeah,
Yeah.
environment.
So Lindsay Morden became Cunningham Lindsay.
Exactly.
Cunningham Lindsay got bought by Sedgwick
Yeah.
2017, maybe
Yeah.
2016, something like that. And Sedgwick is a huge
It's
TPA. They
huge.
bought
Yeah.
York, which was another big one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they have always have job listings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as actually finding a job, greatinsurancejobs.com, that's
Mm,
a great place to go.
yep.
And you'll see listings for multi-line property,
Yep.
general liability, auto. You'll see all those listings there.
I see a lot
And
of things on Indeed as well,
Indeed, yep, yep,
and LinkedIn. I see a
for
ton of stuff
sure.
from LinkedIn. But anyway,
Insurancerecruiters.com is
yeah.
another website. I think there's probably four or five insurance recruiters out there that's all they do is they just keep a database of
Mm,
potentials and they post jobs and um, if you can't find a job in the industry, I think you probably can.
yeah.
I think
There
there's a
might be
big
something
need
that
for
you,
people.
yeah. If you're not getting hits back on your resumes that you're sending out and things, you would probably need to take a look at your resume,
Yeah,
is what I would suggest.
yeah,
Um,
for
yeah.
sure.
Because there definitely is always uh, people wanting adjusters. We,
There's always a need for them. I
yes,
mean, like we need half of one right now.
yeah.
Like, we need half of one in one city and half of one in another city. So like,
Hmm.
I mean, I'll put this out there. If you are in Buffalo or Albany and you need some liability claims to help us with, then give us a call because we need some help.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. So
but
I mean, I think we've kind of talked about this. You think going broad first is best and then figuring out if you want to specialize, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
If you've got the tenacity and you're tough enough to deal with things you don't like,
Mm,
become a multi-line adjuster because you'll see it all.
yeah.
And that's, how I learned to hate PD liability and collision. So,
It's,
I just don't do that. I don't think a lot of people, there are probably some people who like doing that
oh, I'm
work. I don't know.
sure. I mean, I don't mind it. Actually, I don't mind it. It's not my favorite. I don't
Yeah.
mind it though.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why you and I are very good together, I think, when we're talking, because I'm just the opposite. I would start specialized,
Hmm.
but move around every 3 to 5 years and then become a multi-lined adjuster because I
This is a
find
career that fits your personality. Like whatever your personality is,
exactly
you're going to find if you're more of um, independent go-getter type
right.
person, problem solver, like if your first inclination is to figure something out and fix it yourself before you go ask for help,
Hmm.
probably a multi-line adjuster is a good fit for you.
Yep.
If you are afraid to do something wrong and you want to make sure that you've got, rules to follow
Hmm.
and books to read and people to call when you have a question, you maybe specialization might be, that's
Might be the best for you.
probably a very inaccurate and loose way to
No, no,
say
no,
it,
no.
but
I think you're absolutely right. And you actually triggered a memory for me. Is one of the things that we started people off on was property damage at our third party administrator. Homeowner claims, commercial property, building claims, easy stuff.
mhm.
And then we worked them up to liability, and then we worked them up to, cargo or automobile claims or something like that, something that kind of got a little bit more complex. But you said if you were scared to make a mistake, and I knew that some of our new adjusters were petrified to move sometimes or to
Mm.
make a call. And I'm like, just do it. What's the worst that can happen? And they would be like, oh, we're going to get sued and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, we're going to get sued anyway. If you don't make a decision, they're going to sue us. So, and I think it made the new adjusters feel better that as adjusters, we have the right to be wrong. or we don't get punished necessarily if we are wrong, although it may feel like we do. But as
One of the
long as it's
toughest
not,
things to
it,
learn is, go ahead.
well,
Sorry.
I was just going to say, as long as it's not done maliciously and
Yeah.
willfully and wantonly, you can make a mistake. It's okay. It's okay. We're human. We all make mistakes. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. To an extent, like putting an extra zero on a check is not a
That's a
good
big
one to
mistake.
make.
That's a big mistake, but yeah.
Um, but but if you're talking about deciding who's at fault in
Mhm,
a case and both sides have different information.
mhm.
Like I was just reviewing a case this morning and we only had our insured's side and a witness's side
Right,
of what happened.
right,
The other side, they immediately sued it. So all we know is what's in the summons and complaint.
right.
So, we can look at a summons and complaint and talk to our guy, and our guy's like, well, the no, and that's a no, and that's a no. So, starts to look like a denial right away, or,
Mhm,
this is a
mhm,
defensible case right away.
mhm.
And then, 6 months later, an attorney provides us with a package of information that we didn't have any of this stuff before, and it
Exactly.
just totally changes the picture of the case. And so it's not getting it wrong. It's just a matter of having new information, and now you're enlightened. Um,
And you can change your opinion.
you can change your opinion. We reserve the right to change our opinion, and
Yeah,
that happens on coverage too.
it does all the
A,
time.
a property claim where it looks like it's not covered
Hmm.
can flip on its head once you learn something new about it.
Yeah.
And then you just say, oh, well, okay, and that's not an insurance company taking an unreasonable stance on something.
No,
It's just them working with the information that they have. So
exactly.
anyway, that's my spiel.
Well, and it's a very good spiel. Yes. Because and again, one of the advice that I give to adjusters is, look, when we think that there's going to be a coverage issue, we're going to send out a reservation of rights letter. You don't do that in New York, but anyway, go with me on this one. And we explain to the insured, look, I don't think there's going to be coverage, and I'm going to send you a letter. It's going to explain why, but I'm going to tell you right now, blah, 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 blah. And this is your chance to send me information that would help show that there's coverage. And that kind of clues into the insured that they don't automatically start yelling at you. Like, what do you mean you're going to deny my coverage? Blah, 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 blah. But no,
Why
that's
do I buy insurance?
exactly. I pay premiums for 15 years, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. We've all heard it. Anyway, we can buy islands, private islands with the nickels that we get from hearing that thing over and over and over
My
again.
father-in-law had a claim. I helped him with it last week, and I don't know why I was even there. He just wanted me there, so he called his company up, and they did the whole claim process. It was interesting to see the claim process being handled by another company, and
Right.
the how the process they use to for intake and things like that. Um, but he said that to the guy.
Oh,
The guy said the guy finally at the end of the call, he said, I just wanted to let you know this is a covered claim. And my father-in-law sat back, and he's 82. He goes, well, I should hope so. I've been paying you guys money for all these years. Never once made a claim. What do I even buy insurance for? And I just belly laughed.
right, right. Oh, wow. And
It
he
was
and he
right
was
on
an
cue.
adjuster, and he was an adjuster too. So,
No, I had
oh,
no, not him. I have two father-in-laws. I was
oh,
married twice, so
oh, sorry,
I
I didn't
I
know that.
always
I didn't
so
know that.
my father-in-law on my ex-wife's side,
I see. Okay,
uh,
okay, okay.
and I'll name drop. His name is Bob Hersey, and he was a Crawford manager for 40 some odd years,
There you go. Okay,
and great guy. He's the reason I'm an adjuster. Um, and my other father-in-law,
I see.
Bobo.
Mhm.
He's the one who he was never a claims guy. No,
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
no.
I didn't know you were married twice. Well, there you go.
Yeah,
We learned
yeah.
something about Bill today.
Hey,
Aw,
the secret's out.
aw, there you go. Hey. Okay. So, businesses, I think carriers are going towards specialized w- insureds or
I think they
insurance
have to.
adjusters more
I think they
because
have to because
mm,
you, as a big organization, if you've got a roster of 2,000 adjusters across the world, across the country,
mhm,
keeping keeping them all trained at the level that you need to be trained at to be a competent multi-line adjuster would be
hard, impossible.
impossible, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
You'll have you're always going to have your key players, the folks that have been there a very long time and actually are functioning as a multi-line adjuster, but you have to slot people in to very specialized things just because of the volume of the work you do, I think. Like
yeah.
this guy we talked to at my father-in-law's story, you can tell that that's all this guy does is claims intake. You
Mm,
know, he's not an adjuster.
right,
He just his job is to just take that, and he was really good at it. Excellent personality for it. He was in the right job for him,
right.
and he said he had been doing it for 20, 25 years or something. So, there's lots of opportunities in claims.
Tons. Which I
It's
think is
just
the reason why it's such a great job.
I still do. I think it's a great job.
Hmm.
And if you do read Reddit, you're going to find a lot of people complaining about it, about the job, and that it sucks and they hate it. And
Right.
um, but that's just the way the internet is. So,
Yeah, there you go. So I think we've talked about look at your own personality and
mhm,
and see, Bill would say start broad and then figure out what you like and then go to the specialist. I would say start specializing, move around a little bit,
mhm.
and then, go broad and maybe have an emphasis in what you like,
And I think it's like you said. I think it's great that we have a different opinion
Mhm.
there because 50% of the people listening are going to be like, "Oh, what Bill said makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense," and the other people are going to say, "Oh, Chantel said make a
yeah,
lot of sense."
yeah,
Um, so different strokes for different folks, and that's
exactly.
the beauty of the business we're in.
Yeah, but I would say, regardless of what you decide to do, learn everything you can. I mean, just we would do this on purpose at my company. For example, we would take our property guys who really loved property, and when we would send them off to seminars or whatever, we would deliberately enroll them into liability
Mm,
seminars, not all the time, but once in a while. And then when they came back to the office, they had to report to the rest of the adjusters. So it was kind of like, we were teaching ourselves sort of thing. But again, they kind of hated it because they're like, I don't like liability. I don't want to learn it. But the reason why you're learning it is because you do actually pick up some stuff from other lines of business or other investigative techniques or whatever that can help you in your property claims or that can help you with your liability claims because it's the different way of thinking. So, just because you're in auto liability, for example, or auto first party, for example, don't not go to the opposite line of a webinar or a seminar or something like that. Go to it and
you
see if
never
you like
know
it.
when duty will call.
Yeah,
Also, you could be over on the property side, happy as a clam, but then you get word that, some big accident happened and a busload of people got hurt and they need all hands on deck to
exactly.
process claims and, whatever. It's good to be well-rounded.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason I like a multi-lined adjuster so much is that they are well-rounded and you can fit anywhere. And
Mhm,
that's why I say, hey, if you become a multi-lined adjuster, you can pretty much command your salary because
mhm.
someone's going to need you.
Right.
So I don't think that a multi-lined adjuster is necessarily dead or um, out of place. I just think we should become one, kind of specialize where we want to specialize, but still be one. So we can have podcasts and talk about a lot of different things
Yeah.
and be experts,
I
or at
don't think
least
it's
say we,
dead either. I think that there are segments of the industry that have them in place because they need them in place. And if you decide that that's what you want to be, you have to understand that you're going to have to go to one of those places, and you have got to have the personality for it.
yeah,
Um, but uh, I think the blinders come on when people hear it because they think that that's either the way everybody is or the way or they've never heard of it.
right.
As evidenced in Reddit, the first comment here is, "What the hell is an all lines adjuster?"
Huh? We've answered that now.
I hope so.
Yeah, so unfortunately we can't like promote ourselves on Reddit. So, but if one of our fans want to say, "Hey, they've just been talking about this, so go listen to them," please do.
Yeah.
But we can't
I
do it ourselves.
There's a somebody commented about your book on Reddit.
Oh, they
If
did.
you do a search for your book,
Oh,
The Art of Adjusting, someone has made a comment. They put it in a list of books that they recommended.
oh, goody. Because I was going to say,
Yeah.
hopefully
And
they
it
you said
wasn't
something
me.
good. Oh, good. Well, hopefully it was like something good. Like for all, by all means, do not read.
Actually, there might be another one from me, and I
Oh,
don't even know what my username. It's like something alchemist 324 slash.
yeah,
I don't know what it is, but um anyway,
yeah. There you go.
I
So
think we've wrapped this one up.
we have. We'll be back in 2 weeks, which by the way, spoiler alert, it is my birthday. It's
Oh,
July
spoilers.
30th is gonna be so
We have an
yay.
extra special.
It's gonna
I'm
be
not going to
extra,
say what
extra
it is,
special.
but we have an extra special surprise.
We
We
do.
have to tease it a little bit
We
and
do have
just
to tease
let
it just a
everybody know that there's something really cool coming up for the
coming
next
up.
episode.
Yeah, not just that it's my birthday. So we're gonna be celebrating,
When's your
but
birthday? The 30th?
the 30th. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yay me.
Yeah, you.
Woo!
All right.
So be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share on Reddit, all of those fun things.
Yeah.
And shoot us questions because we're happy to answer questions or troll us. We do like trolls too.
I'd be giddy if I did a search on Reddit and found one of our podcasts that talked about
Yeah.
criticized.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Hammer us. Go ahead,
oh,
give it right between the eyes. Give it to
yeah,
us.
like the one troll said, delete this podcast. You don't know what you're talking
Yes.
about.
Yes.
Go
Delete
for it.
everything.
Because that's the one thing about being an adjuster, you get really thick skin. So, I mean, when people call me
Well,
the B word, I'm like, oh, I feel
and
seen. I
there
feel
was no
seen.
further responses to that, was there?
No, no,
Oh,
no, because obviously it was just a troll,
just a troll.
just a troll. So, anyway, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all of that kind of fun stuff. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye
Bye.
bye. Thanks for joining us on the Art of Adjusting podcast, where we talk about life as an insurance adjuster.
If you enjoyed this podcast or this episode, please give us 5 stars and a review. It does help the algorithm pick us up.
Hit that subscribe button real quick and tell all of your adjuster friends to check this out as well. For independent adjusting services, go to www.auten.claims. And for anyone interested in working as an independent liability adjuster, go to the Contact Us tab to join our roster.
In the meantime, you can contact me at theartofadjusting.com for consulting and training purposes.